Neither.
They already did.
Oh, did they?
Low standards.
Just the Senate.
Just the Senate.
Oops, sorry.
Mr. Premier, just your reaction to what the federal government announced.
Well, I think we are happy to secure canola action from our federal government on behalf of our Saskatchewan farmers. We're pleased with the announcement today. The federal government and the Prime Minister has largely accepted the proposal that we had put forward with respect to providing that access to capital, that additional access to capital for our Saskatchewan and Canadian farmers, Canadian canola growers, so that they are able to hit the fields here this spring. And it buys us a little bit of time, I think, in fairness, with respect to how can we engage with our Saskatchewan second largest trading partner. How can we support our federal government in engaging, supporting them with engaging with the country of China on on the dispute that has most recently become evident.
It sounds like there's talk of increased trade missions to Japan and South Korea as well too. What can you tell us about Saskatchewan's role in those upcoming missions?
Both of our ministers have been made aware that the Minister Carr and Minister Bibeau are looking at a trade mission into South Korea, into Japan. Both of our ministers have been invited to attend that. One of them, at least, will be attending that, as we are always open to and are aggressively seeking the opportunities that we have to market our exports into other markets and to expand our exports. I met with the members from South Korea here just this past week, so we will be participating in that in some fashion, as well as supporting our federal government in the opportunities that we have to engage with our China market, which also is an important market for not only Saskatchewan canola but a number of Saskatchewan products.
So what can you tell us about what kind of products were discussed at your meeting with the Chinese delegates? The Korean delegates.
Sorry, Korean, yeah. Canola, to a lesser degree, some potash, as well as uranium, as well as other agri-food products as well that we send into Korea, but predominantly canola.
The changes today are somewhat less generous than we were calling for. It's $500,000 interest free instead of $1 million. Are you at all disappointed by that? And do you think that that's sufficient for farmers?
Well, what would be sufficient for farmers is market access into China and all other countries in the world. But we had called for $1 million in interest free. The federal government has come forward with $500,000 in interest free. $500,000 would be interest bearing. We're appreciative of the effort, and I think in fairness, the federal government has shown that they do support Western Canadian agriculture and Canadian agriculture by extension. So we are, I've always said we'll call them as we see them, and we are appreciative that they've moved forward with this plan. It supports our producers as they hit the fields this spring, but it also buys us some time to engage, for us to support our federal government in, what are the next steps in actually moving forward with the engagement with China, so that we can get to a better spot with our market access of canola and the rest of our products.
Is there any thought of the federal top-up on the federal money?
They're part of this program with respect to the agri-stability portion is a cost-share program. The provincial government will have a role to play financially in part of what was announced today.
But you don't feel you can go beyond that, or have the capacity to go beyond that, or the jurisdiction?
Well, the cash advance program is a federal program. There isn't an opportunity for the province to actually participate in that. The other programs, the other business risk programs that we have, and we've always participated to the full degree, full extent in those programs, and we'll be participating in the expansion of those.
And for the next steps, earlier this week, we were talking about reciprocal unfair scrutiny against Chinese products going into Canada. Did you pitch that idea to the Prime Minister yesterday, and what was his reaction?
We talked about a number of opportunities that we may have to actually engage in the trade conversation and building this relationship with the country of China. The fact of the matter is today's announcement does buy us some breathing space with respect to our farmers having access to that capital, and it does the conversation that we had yesterday does allow us the opportunity to really open up a further conversation with our federal government as we move forward on how can we engage, how can we support the federal government in their nation-to-nation conversations with China, and how can we work together to ensure that as we move forward, possibly appointing an ambassador, those types of things, that we can fully utilize the knowledge that we have in our export industry of canola here in Saskatchewan, how we can use that knowledge, our knowledge from abroad, to support our federal government to actually come to what we all want here, and that is a positive trading relationship with China, which we have had for the most part over the course of the last number of years.
What you're examining coal or your Huawei investments at Saskatchewan, is something to review in that regard? Or?
Well, the Huawei review is happening actually at a national level, and we'll wait for what that review comes forward with at that point in time. At this point in time, there's a number of options that we have to bring our trading partner to the table so that we can have the conversations and actually improve this relationship that we have. We have ultimately what the world needs, and that includes China. In agri products, in fertilizer products, and we just need to ensure that we have the relationship that we're actually able to trade that commerce, and we're going to support our federal government in those conversations moving forward.
But what do you make it ironic that this provincial government, through its crown-owned utility as Saskatchewan, has such large Huawei investments when you're suggesting, as you suggest, there are things we can do? It seems that would be one of the things that we could do. If
Oh no, I don't think in any way is that ironic. There's a number of large telecoms in this nation also that have purchased Huawei products or utilizing Huawei products as they move forward. Is there one of the industries that's in that, or one of the market players that's in that industry? So I think there's more people that have been utilizing that product in years gone by that haven't been, including Saskatchewan. So as we move forward, there's a number of potential opportunities that we have. For example, Canada imports a fair amount more product into this nation, about $75 billion, than we actually export into China, about $22 billion. So there's a number of conversations that we can have as we move forward. But I think what we need to do in the short term, now that we have some breathing space for our egg producers here in the province, is to support our federal government in how we can move forward in opening up this conversation and actually having our trading partner at the table so that we can get back to that fruitful trading relationship that we've enjoyed in canola, in potash, and in other products coming from Saskatchewan.
What about blocking Chinese investment in potash in Saskatchewan? Taking some action.
Well, this is exactly, all of the types of relationships that we've built over the last number of years, whether it be investment or whether it be exports coming into Canada, going out of Canada into the nation of China. These are precisely, the challenges that we have when we have a challenge in our trade relationship right now. We as we move forward, we need to have both parties at the table, the nation of Canada, the nation of China, have our conversation about how we're going to ensure that we can continue to trade. And then, in fairness, we need to come up with a Canadian strategy on how we can engage in those positive times to ensure that when we come to a challenge like we have right now, we're able to actually work through that in a little quicker fashion.
How much investment you spent, and past premiers has spent going to China, trying to establish the relationships either through the economic development portfolio or through premiers making direct transfers. But it seems that you do all this, and when it really counts, there's not much you can do about trade.
Well, yeah, I think that would be hard to actually ascertain that, as maybe this would be more challenging at the moment in time than it actually is today. So maybe the missions that we have taken from Saskatchewan have not only fostered the Canada-China relationship, but they've also in many ways fostered the exports that have come out of this nation into that nation. Of the $22 billion in Canadian exports, I think $4.6 billion of that is actually coming from the province of Saskatchewan. So China is our second largest market. It's an important market for us, and it's a trade relationship that we need to not take for granted. We need to be firm in our discussions from a Canadian perspective with the nation, but we need to continue to engage with them because we actually have what they need into the years ahead in that food and fertilizer. And I think it can be a positive conversation for both of us, and we're going to be working with our federal government precisely on this in the days and weeks ahead on behalf of the people that we represent.
Well, what do you make of the fact that the federal government isn't moving forward on this reciprocal treatment as you so called for? There's no immediate action to be taken on that. So how exactly are they engaging China right now?
They have a number of options as well as we move forward. One would be to have a permanent ambassador in place to engage with the Chinese, of which we don't have right now. There's a number of other options that Canada has as we move forward around investment, around opportunities to engage, so that we are able to not only retain the trade and the export opportunities that we have, most notably and explicitly in canola right now, But this is there are opportunities. The first I would say is to have that ambassador in place, and we're hopeful that the federal government will be moving forward in whatever options they have, and including the provinces like Saskatchewan to support that conversation as we move forward. This is a nation-to-nation conversation that needs to happen, and we're hopeful it'll happen in the short term.
Why have you changed your tone on this? Because the other day you were out here saying that they need to be applying the same unfair scrutiny, and now you're saying you got what you wanted. The focus is more on the ambassador. So it seems like you've changed your tone on this.
I'm saying there's a number of options for us as we move forward, including the options that I've mentioned in the days gone by. But the fact of the matter is the federal government has come to the plate in supporting our canola farmers here today. We're appreciative of that, and we have always said that we will support them in a trade mission. We'll support them in any opportunity we have to engage with China. We do need the country of China to come to the table to have those discussions, and we'll continue to engage with our federal government on what we can do to support them in order for that to happen.
Could you provide a bit more detail about the phone call that you had with the PM yesterday? Like, what did you specifically call on him to do besides this APP program? Did he, commit to these changes at that time? And did he commit to anything else?
We discussed the program that was announced here today, and we indicated that we'd be appreciative of that program. We also discussed the opportunities we had for additional markets and how Saskatchewan can support the federal government, the federal ministers in accessing those markets, as we already have ties into those markets for our agri-food products, most specifically for the opportunity for canola. And last, but certainly not least, we did discuss the opportunities that we have in supporting our federal government and ensuring that we can actively engage with China, as well as it is a large market, not only for Canada, but for Saskatchewan and most notably our agri-food products, and what opportunities we have through our relevant ministries to engage to engage with China on that file, and we'll be having further discussions on that in the days and weeks ahead.
And when you discuss that, those sorts of engagement strategies at that time, did your trade proposal about reciprocal, treatment come up at that time?
There's a number of topics that came up at that time. As I said, as we move forward, these are going to be nation-to-nation discussions. When we get there, we're going to support the federal government in these discussions. From this day on, as we have always indicated, we will.
I want to.
Mr. Premier, if you're unsuccessful in the court challenge on Friday, will you be appealing?
I've said before that we would be appealing if we're unsuccessful. But listen, I'm not going to preclude the outcome of the court's decision that will be released on Friday. We're looking forward to a favorable decision. And I will say this: I will make myself available Friday to discuss whatever that decision
Are you
is.
more confident now than you were earlier in the process?
As confident as I've ever been. Yes.
Does the speed of which they arrived at a decision signal anything to you?
Well, you know what? I'm going to comment on that decision here on Friday. I won't speculate as to what it may or may not be. But we're looking for a favorable outcome.
As you know, Alberta just proclaimed Bill 12, that's to turn off their tax legislation. What does that mean for Saskatchewan?
Well, we also proclaimed a bill here that is actually expired at this point in time. But the fact of the matter is we've always said that if Alberta is going to move forward in their turn off the taps legislation under the previous premier and under the current premier, this holds true. It won't be Saskatchewan would be the next place that places would look for to access that product, and we wouldn't be filling up those fuel tanks.
So in light of this decision in Alberta, are you going to be retabling that legislation or extending it at all because it has expired?
Yeah, we don't have plans for that at this point in time, but our message on this holds true. We won't be filling up the fuel tanks if Alberta moves forward in enacting their legislation. I believe they proclaimed the legislation the other day, but they've also said they're not going to be moving forward with it shortly. But our stance remains exactly the same. We need, and this is all about access of getting that product to market, getting Western Canadian sustainable energy products to market. And we would again urge all of those involved to let's have a little broader, more sensible conversation on this.
So if Alberta turned off the taps sometime during the summer, and with our legislation being expired now, what would have to happen for Saskatchewan to follow suit with Alberta and also turn off the taps on BC, because our session ends in about 2 weeks?
Yeah, we'll our minister would be best to answer precisely what would have to happen there. We're not looking at retabling that legislation before our legislature breaks here in about 2 weeks. But the fact of the matter is we would very, very seriously look at what we need to do if it comes to that point, and I'm hopeful that it wouldn't come to that point. I'm hopeful that calmer heads would prevail on how we are able to grow our economies and actually grow our opportunities to do right by the environment by providing sustainable Western Canadian energy to not only all Canadians but to people around the world through pipeline construction, through enhancement of the industry. We are seeing investment fleet from Alberta, Saskatchewan, from an energy industry that is among the most sustainable in the world. And that is simply not right from an economic perspective, and it's simply not right from a climate change perspective.
Is Saskatchewan looking at the legality of actually turning off the taps? Because that's one of the big questions here, whether Alberta would actually have this power. So are the lawyers in this province kind of exploring that option?
We're always looking at the legality, and we introduced a bill that we felt would hold the test of a legal challenge. I believe there will be maybe I'm we feel the bill that we introduced was a bill that would hold the test of a legal challenge. I guess would be my answer.
Just so I'm clear back to canola, if you're encouraging the federal government to be firm in their talks with China and kind of reciprocate, why not lead the way with Saskatchewan when it comes to Huawei or Chinese potash companies?
Because we're working with our federal government to ensure that we can come to to an outcome that's beneficial for canola farmers across the nation, and we will continue to support them in this initiative. That may be one of the options that we ultimately get to at some point in time with respect to some of the products that we bring into Saskatchewan and Canada. But at this point in time, we're going to continue to work with our federal government to ensure that we can work on the challenge that is right at hand here today, and that's the access of our canola products into that nation.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Thanks very much.
Get Ryan to come down here, I guess.
Anything else? Shoot it.